Welcome back to another episode of STL Real Estate Roundtable. I'm your host, Jaden Barr, CEO and team leader of Keller Williams Realty Chesterfield. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. Julie Lane. Julie, thanks so much for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I start off pretty much every episode the same way, which is what led you to a career in real estate?
Okay. Well, I grew up out in the middle of nowhere. My dad was a farmer. And so my whole childhood, I just would always hear him talking about buying land and selling land and interest rates. And, you know, way back then, I mean, some of the interest rates were 18, 20%. And now I know why he was so mad. I had no idea what he was talking about then. But it just really, as I got older, instilled in me that it's very important to own property, to own a house. Those are all things that are going to help you build your life. And I was working, when I moved here, I was working in corporate and pharmaceutical, and just wanted a job that would allow me to not have to leave my two girls. They were so little at the time, and overnight to go somewhere for my, for that job. So I've always been interested in real estate. So I just shifted into it, had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I think if I would have known, I probably would have not done it. I think it would have intimidated me, but that's just how I got started. I really wanted to be a part of a community, and not being from here, that was important to me. And I also just wanted to be around for my family. Daytime is for work and school, but nighttime, I just hated leaving them for a week at a time and that sort of thing.
Okay. So you worked in pharmaceuticals. How long did you do that?
I'm trying to think. I think I did that for almost 10 years, maybe. Okay. Maybe. Yeah.
10 years. Okay, yeah, cool. And then the career shift was because you wanted to be more present with your two girls?
Definitely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Cool.
Right.
And so, and now you work in an industry where you get to work 7 days a week.
I know. But I love it. So that does help. And it does allow me to be home. My girls are older now and they don't even live with me anymore, but, it does allow you to be around, I think. And that was really important to me. And I do love what I do. So that helps a lot.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So you get your real estate license, not from St. Louis.
Yes.
So
what were you thinking? Is that what you're going to ask me?
Talk to me about that. Talk to me about, I'm not going to ask you what high school you went to then.
So right? I didn't know that was a thing. But I quickly learned that most people that get, into real estate do it with having, family that lives close by, with friends, people they went to high school with, grade school, family, friends. So I had none of that. I started in 08-ish when the market crashed, actually I started, it was 08. Sitting on phone duty when the market crashed. That was a fun day. And it's always been baptism by fire, which is the best part and the worst part. But I did get a very good education on what this business is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So you get your real estate license in 08.
Yeah. I think I got it a little earlier, but didn't do anything with it until I was ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you start kind of building your business, walk me through how you went about doing that. What were some of the early keys to success in real estate? You said baptism by fire.
Baptism by fire. Yeah. That's always a good one. I was in the office every day. So I learned also very quickly that most people don't go into the office every day. They work from home and all of those things. And I didn't want to do that. I knew that if I were going to make this my career, which I really wanted to do, that I needed to be in an office setting every day. I needed to be around people that were selling real estate, that were talking about it even. And, you know, when I started at Janet McAfee so long ago, not a lot of agents would come in, but I would sit next to the ones that did come in every day. They were the ones that were making all the deals. They were the ones that could share the stories of, you know, all of these good things and bad things and how certain things work. I couldn't learn that at home because, you know, nobody at home is in real estate. So, and I think to this day, I still go into the office every day. I think it's really important. You're not going to learn the nuances of this business unless you're around enough people that do this business. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I just was there every day. I took tons of phone duty, which now really isn't a thing because internet's gotten so big and all those years ago. But I just showed up and I worked hard. And I think that's the biggest part of it, is having the passion for it and just showing up and just being willing to learn and do it. Yeah.
So show up, do the work.
Yes.
Show up,
do the work. Yeah. And then do it, you know, every day. And then, you know, pretty soon you'll have hopefully a career.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So, so you've seen a few different markets at this point, right? Learn through, you know, the market crash, and then obviously with the pandemic, we've got, you know, craziness there. What's been some of like the challenging times, right? Because we're in 100% commission based business, right? So there's roller coasters, there's ups, there's downs.
Correct.
And that's the life of being a business owner, an entrepreneur. So talk to me about some of maybe the challenges with a real estate career and kind of how you've overcome those challenges.
Sure.
Anything that you're currently working on in your business.
So every job, and I've had a job since I was 15 years old. And I'm way older than 15 right now, but every job that I've had, I had a salary. Most jobs have salaries. I think what people forget when they think about what it's like to be a real estate agent, I mean, I think everyone sees all the glamorous stuff and
selling sunset.
So, all of it. Nobody wears those shoes when they're really working. We don't. We can't. I watch them too because they're kind of fun to watch and I like to see the houses, but there's not a ton of reality there. But, you know, I think people have to realize that when someone decides to do this job, they are waking up every day without a salary. They're waking up every day basically without a job until they get a job. And even when they get the job, they're waking up every day not knowing if they're going to get paid at the end of it because a million things can go wrong. So I think with that and just all the hardships of, you know, when the market crashed and then the pandemic and now we've got more crazy things happening, I think that if you don't have the passion and you don't have the drive to just, you know, keep meeting your goals and helping people and making that a priority, this is not going to work out and it's not going to be the job for you. I mean, it is a thankless job at times, but sometimes it is great. You just have to know that you are sacrificing a lot and you sacrifice a lot of your personal time, but you really have to have the mindset that it's going to be okay and you can do it. You know, I set a ton of goals for myself all the time. I actually make my daughters, we sit down every, right before the new year and we write down kind of what we want to accomplish, because I think without it, you're never gonna do it. So
yeah, what's the statistic? I think it's like a written goal is like you're at 70 something % more likely to achieve it.
Yeah. So you really need to do that, with anything. And I've done that from my early days in pharmaceuticals. I've done that because I need a focus, and I think everybody does. This job is no different, and this job can pull you 50 ways in an hour. So you just need to keep looking ahead and being steady about it. But when I think there are like 1.5 million agents or 2 million agents in United States right now. Those are the people that are waking up every day with no guarantee of a job, a salary, of a commission, of an anything. And the good ones that have lasted all of this, they're the ones that have the faith and have the goal.
They're betting on themselves every day.
Betting on themselves every day and just showing up.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear you say that. I think I coach and consult with agents on a regular basis. And I think the agents that I talk with that are successful, that have been through tough times, they really don't give themselves the option to fail. Like they win at all costs, right? Yeah. And they're willing to do what it takes to win, no matter what the market's doing, no matter the circumstances around them. They know what they need to do to win. Yeah. They create a plan, and then they go and they take action. Yeah. Right?
And that's so true.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think action defeats fear every single time. Yeah. But if you're fearful, a way to overcome that is to take some action.
Right. And that is the truth. That is so true. When I started, I quit a very good job with a very good salary, a great bonus structure. I had a company car. They paid for my gas, my insurance, all of those things. And I quit it to do this. And then literally the market crashes. And I felt like I wanted to do it, thankfully, but I didn't have a choice. Failure is not an option. Yeah. And to this day, I think I owe it to my clients to not fail, to, they're not looking to be my best friend, although I've made a lot of great friends. But my priority is to get them to their finish line the best way I can. And by doing, you can't fail at that.
So you talked about setting goals with your daughters. What's I'm a girl dad, so I'm definitely I'm definitely gonna put that practice into place whenever she gets old enough to dream a little bit. But what is the vision for your business? What is the goal? Like, where do you see yourself in a year, 3 years, 5 years?
It's a good question. So every year I've been in business, I've done better than the year before as far as sales volume, because that's how we always, as agents, that's kind of what the plan is. That's what we do. Yeah. We always look at that. So I've been lucky enough to do that. There was one year that I didn't, and I think it was the year my mother passed away. But it was still a good year. I just missed it by a little bit, which is okay. But I think just trying to do the best I can. Everything's evolving so much and changing. And we, there was the lawsuit. We have to explain that every day. I think the bar on our job gets higher and higher every week, I feel like. It's still the same job. And I think we owe it to our clients. So I just want to do as much as I can. I want to help as many people as I can. I do have my broker's license. I got that a long time ago. So I always have that too, just because it was another goal of mine to get it. But I really just think that I just want to continue to be one of the agents that people think about when they think about having to buy a house or sell a house, that hopefully I will at least get a shot. I'll get an interview. Yeah.
Getting that bad.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it's just that I think, you do this for so long, there are, I think, little tweaks that we make after a while, personal things that we want to do, family things, that sort of thing all plays into it because this job is so all encompassing. So it's hard to say, I want to, do this. And, with the job always comes with its little goals, but they do mix with personal. So yeah, there are some things that I want to start doing a little bit and implementing. So we're working on it. One of them, social media.
Okay.
I do have a social media girl, and she's always asking me.
Yeah, your reels are amazing. I was watching
great.
Some of those. Yeah.
But she's always like, oh, take make it a little personal. And so that's one of my goals. I don't know. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I just feel like no one can be that interested in what I'm doing or what I'm saying or what restaurant I'm at. But I always watch to see what everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
so anyway, so that's one of my goals.
Yeah. It's like the keeping up with the Joneses at times.
Yeah.
Like you see other agents. Yeah. Social media is a dangerous game,
Totally.
Right? The comparison game. I think comparison's the thief of all joy, right? And so I think if you start comparing yourself to others, it's a dangerous game to play.
And I think and I that's such a good point you bring up. It's very hard not to compare yourself, but I never want to do it just because that's a losing game.
Yeah.
And I also feel that sometimes we see all these things happening and sometimes they're not real. And sometimes, so what I've always wanted to do if I do a bigger social media presence is just to shoot. Yeah. Just be a straight shooter.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're telling things to people that they don't want to hear. Mm-hmm. But I want to be informative and I want to be relevant in that way in the business. And there is that fine line that we see people, kind of trying to teeter when they're doing their social media post and, their podcast and, all of those things.
Yeah. I always, when talking about goals with people, I think one thing I always try to encourage people to do is chase your goal, not someone else's.
Correct.
Right. Because, you mentioned increasing your sales volume year after year. And that's awesome. That's incredible. I think there's some agents that, they want to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. And, they oftentimes forget about what's the purpose of growing? I'm content with the business that I have. It's providing for my family. I get the work-life balance that I want.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you can get lost chasing someone's goal that's not really your own.
That's not yours.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's something I always try to encourage people to do.
Correct. Because there are agents out there that, yes, my goal now is going to be to do what so-and-so did last year. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not my goal. It's already a fail. And I feel like when you take your eye off of just you and your goal and what you're doing every day, you're going to start losing focus for sure. But then I think it's almost like you're letting other things in that are going to distract you from your goal. So it's never a good idea to compare. It's never a good idea to try to, when I first started a few years in, there was an agent that came to our office and he didn't stay very long, but he came and he would always say, I'm going to be you in a year. And I thought that was such a weird thing to say because, I'm looking at mine saying, yeah, this is good, but you know what? I'm going to do it better next year because that's my goal. Mm-hmm. So how am I his goal? Mm-hmm. And I just think that is the biggest way to not make your goals, mm-hmm. to not focus on you. Yeah.
So, you sell a lot of luxury real estate.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that. What are some nuances or some things that are different or even similar when it comes to mm-hmm. selling luxury versus non-luxury?
So I do treat all of them the same, meaning that I don't say, oh, well, this house is only, this much money, so they're only going to get this much of my time. There are agents that do that. That's the way they work. And it works for them. For me, it doesn't. So I just treat them all the way I would want to be treated. Whether it's a $90,000 condo or a huge house. And I've been very lucky that way. I think people are people. People are demanding. I think I've had people kind of say things like, oh, that client must be really demanding because, they run a company or whatever. And I would have to say, of course they're demanding, but so's the first time home buyers who have never bought a house and they want to know what's going on, what they're doing next. I think, I just treat everyone the same. But everyone is going to have different needs. And that kind of doesn't span price range. That's just people. Whether you're moving for an exciting upgrade or you're downsizing or it's a divorce or a death in the family. I mean, we all deal with all of those things. So it gets complicated. And I just have to always remember, I want to treat them like I would want them to treat me. And it's really important to me that they feel like they're taken care of, that they can trust me. If they can't trust me, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. All comes down to trust, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, talk to me about breaking into the St. Louis market. Like, you're not from St. Louis, so I think there are agents that are new to St. Louis that maybe they're trying to get their business off the ground or trying to build their business, build their network. What advice would you give to those agents as far as?
I would just say, just get in there. Always be humble and just work hard. I mean, show up. That's what I did. And I feel like, especially in where I worked, it was a very small community. My office is in Ladue. And people are like, well, who are you? You don't live here. You're not from here. We don't know who your parents are. All of those things. And I just decided I was doing this for myself and my family. So I couldn't listen to the noise, and you shouldn't either. And just do you. And, I felt like I had to earn their approval. I had to earn their respect. And the only way to do that was by working really hard and proving that I definitely deserve a place at this table. And, it takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It takes some years. But I feel like I've done that. There are a lot of people that I really respected in the business and looked up to. And I feel very honored to have a lot of them as very close friends because, had I just kind of quit and were intimidated, that would not be where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few things come to mind whenever you said all those things is, one, the person that adds the most value wins.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can show up on a regular basis, coming from contribution, you're adding value to the people that you want to work with someday.
Yeah.
They're going to see that, recognize that, and you're going to be the first name. You're going to be top of mind whenever it comes time to buy or sell, regardless of, where you grew up or what high school you went to. Yeah. Like, I don't think people necessarily care about that as much as we oftentimes make up that story in our head.
I feel like every year it gets less and less. I think that, there is a thing about people wanting to work with their friends because they're familiar with them to buy a house, sell a house. But I always tell people, and I've had friends not use me, and the way I have to look at it is, and the way everyone should look at it is, if you're buying a house or selling a house, that's a huge financial situation. Like, you have to be on your game with that. And you want to have the very best person who aligns with your goal to do that for you, to work with you. If it's not me, great. Not great, but great, right? Because You want to work with someone that believes in your strengths.
Yeah.
The worst position to be in is to ruin a friendship over someone not picking you and then being upset about that. Or them picking you and you're not really as confident because of the area. Maybe it's not an area you work in or whatever. And instead of, getting help, or you just kind of do it and maybe it doesn't work out. So I really feel that you just have to understand that if people don't pick you, it's not personal, and it's hard every time we don't get picked. I don't care how long you've been doing this. It sucks.
Yeah.
But it is part of it. And you just have to understand that you don't want to work with someone that really doesn't feel confident in you.
Yeah.
Or know your worth.
It's such a great topic. And I don't think we've ever touched on this on the podcast, because I think, I don't know, I 100% agree with with what you're saying, right? It always hurts.
But always hurts.
Oftentimes, I've even had a scenario before where, a friend didn't pick me because they wanted, they didn't, if something were to go wrong, they didn't want it to hurt our relationship. And that's,
you know what? That is so nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't feel nice at first, but I'll tell you, that is that's a true friend.
Yeah. And the biggest piece of advice for any agent out there is to not take things personally. Like it's so easy to get upset in that moment, and it's gonna sting, right?
Oh yeah.
You believe in yourself, the value you provide, you want to serve everyone that knows, likes, and trusts you.
Right.
And when it doesn't go your way, it hurts. But the easiest way to combat that is to go get your next.
Yeah. Right.
As quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
And you just have to know that they did you a favor by kind of letting you go to free you up for somebody else that actually is going to have the faith in you to get the job done. Maybe not uber controlling because they don't think that you're the right person, but you were you're a friend of theirs, whatever it is. And then some people foolishly will pick a friend because they think, especially in a town like this, they think that they should go with so-and-so because of the aunt's mom and all of that. And sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. But if you were not picked for that, it was never yours to begin with. And I know this is all great advice, but it's hard to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think too, like, who you are is who you attract.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
You're going to find your people. And I think that's a testament to, like, probably your story, my story, not being from St. Louis. It's like, we show up, we add value, we come from contribution, we are consistent with the work that we put in, and you attract kind of your tribe, right? And people see that, they value that. So,
and it takes time, and that's the thing. I had one agent. I remember calling her, and this was years ago, and she's not in my office. We'd worked together a few times, but she was a listing agent on this huge house, and she didn't even have it 60 days, which is not a lot, when the houses are multi-million dollars. Like, it takes some time to get behind those and advertise them and all that. So I called her and I'm like, I just want to say, I am so sorry you got they took you off that listing. I think that's horrible. I know you were working hard on it. I just wanted to say that. And she said to me something that I will never forget. I remember where I was at when she said it. And she said, well, Julie, that we can't win them all. So she said, we can't win them all. Don't even try to win them all. And from an agent who I really looked up to at the time, and, because she was doing, and she still does, a great business, I thought, she's so right. And I tried to implement that from then on and just keep telling myself that, because it's so true.
You said something earlier about how it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
You got to do the work. And I think there's one concept that I've kind of been thinking about a lot lately. It's because, I'm coaching with agents and, some agents get in the business. They think it's just going to happen overnight.
They do. Yeah.
Case, right. And so I always tell people, learn how to work hard before you learn how to work smart.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to do the hard work.
Yeah.
You're so right. So do you feel like they get that or?
At times, but I think just reminding people, like, you have to do the work, right? It's not going to fall into your lap.
Yeah.
Right?
I tell my girls that all the time. You just show up, because a lot of people aren't even willing to do that. They'll act like they are, but then they won't show up. And then they're like, well, I haven't done much business this year or whatever. That's why I say to people, when they are looking to do this is not a job that I would ever do if it was just going to be like a side hustle or a part-time job. There's too much to know. There are too many pitfalls.
It changes too quick.
It changes so much. You are setting yourself up for disaster if you're not in it. And then when you do get a deal, it's so hard if you haven't done one in a while. It's hard for me. Like I do a lot of condos. I don't do all condos. So I could go a year or 2 years without doing a condo. And then when I do one, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, because I have to remember and, really focus on it. And I think people don't think about that. They just think it's easy. They see how fun it is. And it's not either of those things, really. I mean, it's fun at the end, but it's not fun while you're in it. It's just, there's too much at stake. So it's something to really think about. You don't want to jump into this if your heart's not in it. If you don't want to help people, it's just not going to be the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in an era right now, I think, with a lot of different brokerages. I always tell people that you just got to find the brokerage that supports you, that is the right fit for you, because every brokerage is a little different, right? Every brokerage, there's great agents at every brokerage. There's a lot of great brokerages out there. But I feel like we're in an era where there's a lot of people jumping ship, changing brokerages. Yeah. And you've been with one brokerage the
whole time. Yeah.
So talk to me about Janet McAfee and kind of like why you choose to be a business with them.
So I chose Janet McAfee at the beginning. I had the agent that sold us our first house here in St. Louis. And then she since has retired, but she was there. And so I'm like, I'm starting to do this. And she was probably like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? But I stayed with them. I quickly learned that they did things the way I would want them to do. Like I would want to do, meaning that when we advertise, they make everything look beautiful. It doesn't matter. They're not only after the big houses, they're after all the houses. And there might be some agents that are only after one or the other. But as somebody like myself who will take any job, and I'm grateful for it, I want them all to be treated the same. And I feel that they do that. I feel they do a good job at that. They do a good job with their advertising. I don't feel like they cut many corners with their clients. McAfee doesn't charge on top of a commission, a closing fee, and all those things that some do. We kind of put that together. And, I would want that if I were buying a house or selling a house, but that's kind of why I stay, and I stay for the people. Now it's been so many years, we have a portion of the office where I'm there every day. And now I've got other people that are there every day too. Yeah. And it's so nice. This is a job that you really need your people around you most days to say, I can't believe that happened. Yes. That stinks, or listen to what happened to me. That camaraderie is why I stay.
For the real education.
Yeah. And, I can't say enough about the friends that I've made there, but I feel like I'm there every day. People would come early on and they'd ask me questions. They'd ask me how the copier worked, or they would, and then, after I'd been there, they're like, well, she's not going anywhere. So they would start asking me questions about, deals, not like hard legal questions, but, things that I knew on processes and things like that. And it made me feel really good that they thought enough of me to ask me. And so, I have to say I'm a little, I do it for myself too. I like helping people. I like being able to either, give them the direction or calm their nerves or whatever I can. And those are the other agents. I think we all need to help each other. I know that doesn't happen at every office. I know it doesn't. Yeah.
And it's so cool to hear you say that because, from I think the first part of whenever you got into real estate, like you were the one in the office learning from the agent, right? So you're paying it forward by now you're in that position. You pour into other people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, there were some people early on, Barbara Wolfing, she was a really big agent. She's passed away, but it was such a, just working with her and, we'd be in the office at night. Like she would be in her office. I would be, sitting at my desk and we were the only ones there and we would start to talk. And I feel like I earned a lot of respect from her and that meant so much to me. And there were others too. Ted Thornhill was my first, my broker. He was one of the brokers there and he has since passed away. And he was a big reason why, I feel like I was able to have the strength early on to establish myself and to have the tenacity to just kind of be like, well, I'm not going anywhere. So,
we got to figure
here
it out.
I am.
Right? Yeah.
But he, so I think you need to give that and you'll get it back. If you keep jumping offices, sometimes it's hard to kind of get that consistency with that. Yeah.
Okay. So as far as, looking at the business that you built, right, over close to 20 years now.
Yep.
Right, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the fact that I was able to do something that, honest to God, if I knew what I was getting myself into, I would be like, I cannot do this. I need to get another pharmaceutical job. I need to get something else. But I think I'm most proud of being able to provide for my family alongside with my husband. That is big to me. And it's big to me to have these two daughters and to instill in them that if that's what you want to do, you go do that and you can do it. And just working really hard, all so important. And, there have been so many clients along the way that I felt were really in a tough spot and they really needed my help. And those are the ones, they're not the biggest deals, some of them, but they're the ones I remember the most because, they allowed me to help them, which allowed me to feel good about myself. Yeah. I know that sounds kind of weird, but just being able to serve, I mean, there's not a lot of that out there anymore sometimes. So, especially with AI and everything, I just, you're going to miss it, so it's just something that I'm proud of, that I put my clients in the priority where they need to be.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Final question.
Okay.
What is the most impactful book or podcast that you've listened to or read that's had an impact on you?
Besides this one?
Besides this one,
yeah,
I'm sure this is number one, yes. Right?
Well, I don't really have time to read books and listen to a ton of podcasts, but I will say that I do read a lot of articles and I do watch snippets of podcasts, and I'm most drawn to the ones that are about service, not just about real estate. Yeah. Mel Robbins comes to mind. She's great. And just her whole trajectory of her career. I think she's very inspirational.
She has a book called The 5-Second Rule.
Yes.
It's basically if you're thinking about doing something, count down from 5 and then do it.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
My daughter and I have the Let Them book, and we haven't started. Well, she has probably almost read the whole thing, but I have not.
You'll get the Cliff Notes from her.
I will have to, yes. But I think, just people like that. There are so many that will just, kind of show up in my Instagram feed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. I think it's just really important to try to stay as grounded as you can. And that's really hard. It's really hard in any job, but it's, I think, especially hard in this job. We get our feelings hurt a lot. We get rejected all the time. And we're doing that, by the way, without, again, a salary or a promise. I mean, we have nothing when we wake up every morning, and people that do this job and they're true practitioners of it, give yourself a pat on the back for that, because not many people can do it. And not many people think that's what it is. But when they find out that's what it is, a lot of people don't want to do it anymore. And that's totally fine. It's not for everybody. But yeah, so I think just inspirational people like that is what comes to mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for your time today. I know that everybody watching, listening is going to get a ton of value from this episode.
Great.
So,
all right.
Keep crushing in your business.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll be cheering you on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right.
Very much.
And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.